Oberekango BITC is very different to how you market to a 20-something-year-old who goes to Corner Couch, right? So cool. And then you need to
the
factor
Pond
in
restaurant.
Yes.
Shameless plug, yeah?
Oh yeah, the Pond. Yeah, even Ayoba. Yeah.
Yeah, even Ayoba.
So it's.
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Dumela, dear viewer and listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. As always, I'm excited, in fact, super excited to come and talk to you this day about marketing. I have a wonderful guest for you. As always, we go the extra mile in getting the best and brightest guests, people who will impact your life, people who will give you life-changing business information that you can take home and take to work or do something positive about. We're going to talk about all things marketing. We're going to talk about all things having to do with branding and brand positioning. We're going to talk about actually not the theory of it, but the actual nut and bolts of it in terms of experiential knowledge, which is what we're about. My guest, Monare, Heather Monare. Very soon she'll come and join us. But before she does join us on screen, here is a little plug. It's a shameless plug for my book, Nuggets of Grit. We're about to hit bestseller status, Botswana. You can only do so with your help. I think within a month or two we'll have reached there, and we can only do so if you go buy it. $350. It's available here at Mogobe Plaza on the first floor. We'll be happy to sell you one. Alternatively, you can get it from Exclusive Books. If you're watching us from South Africa, we have a deal with Bobza, who are our distributors in South Africa. And if not, if you're in other parts of the world, our marketing team is able to send the book to you. All you have to do is call our number, which is +267 397 1368. The number will appear on the screen, +267 397 1368. Let's do business together. But before I forget, please strike that subscribe button. We'll be amazed that so many of you watch us without subscribing, and the algorithms favor those who have subscriptions, guys. And the only way I can bring top quality guests is if you were to subscribe. So please help me to help you. Please help me to support you by hitting that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, as well as the like button. Thank you so much for watching. Let me bring in my guest, Heather Monare Dumel.
Dumelang.
How are you, madam?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Can we get the ball rolling by an intro? You can share your CV, even if it's a condensed one.
Okay, so I won't give it a condensed one. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm lying. I'll talk about myself.
Yeah.
Kidding.
That's what you're here for.
Yeah, so I am a founder and currently director of a firm called Hatherleigh & Co. We primarily go by hack, predominantly because of the mission that we're trying to lead with in Africa. We hope to disrupt the statistical data that is that 75% of African ventures, startups, SMEs fail within the first 5 years. And you'd be shocked to know that a large percentage of that is a lack of connecting and resonating with their consumers. And how do we connect, resonate, and become memorable with our consumers? It's through marketing. So we've put ourselves on that mission to kind of positively impact as many SMEs as we can, not only in Botswana, not only in South Africa, not only in Namibia, which is where we really have a footprint, but the whole of SADC. So yeah, that really speaks to branding in the full sense, both in design, in print, in positioning and structuring, and then also in social media marketing. Putting the brand out there, and then also recognizing and understanding that, okay, you as Mr. Mogobe, your audience is largely on YouTube. Let's prioritize strategy, budget, and everything on YouTube. So really attributing on a guidance level as well to founders, because most people don't really get the digital world. So we're just here to guide, impact, and positively affect.
Sounds fantastic. How did it all start? What was the spark to focus on marketing?
I think I've just always had a creative bone in my body. Before this, I was a full-time dancer. So I competed with Team South Africa, although I'm in Botswana. I competed with Team South Africa. And yeah, I've just always had that bit of me.
How did you pull that off?
I guess talent. Should I say talent?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really did that for quite a while, my entire high school career. But I also did do design and fine art in high
I
school.
think part of it had to do with Botswana not having.
Yeah, no,
much
we
of
don't
that.
really. I mean, I think now they're trying with like more pato dance theater and, but we don't have a competitive team. No. So a lot of the opportunities were in South Africa, and I was schooling there at the time. So being able to kind of participate in that was a blessing, obviously. But being able to be awarded on that platform as well. In Croatia, we won top dance studio in the world, and that was cool. I was part of the choreograph team for that.
When was this?
This was probably like 2017, 2018, early to late high school years. So yeah, I think I was maybe 15 at the time. Yeah. So apart from that, I did do design and fine art in high school. And I think from there, I realized, okay, I love creating and I like making beautiful things. That's nice. But I also want to make money. I also want to see this kind of move the needle for businesses. So when I moved back to Botswana post high school, during COVID, I started illustrating for Sky Girls BW, which is a subsidiary or like a non-profit organization created by the Dialogue Group. So really, I just walked in there and I said, look, you need a local creative. You need a local person who's illustrating and creating stories visually for your girls. I mean, what are you saying if you're saying, oh, I want to create something for local people, but you're using all these external stock images or art, etc. So that's where illustrating or branding came to be. And then I was approached by a lovely gentleman who's now my mentor to do Naledi Motors and Toyota.
To do
Motor
what
Center
for them?
Toyota, to do social media for them. Yeah, so he was really my first introduction to social media. I think for him, he noticed my passion for brand. And I will say it now to say that I think some of the greatest marketers understand brand before they understand digital. I think knowing who you're marketing, who they are marketing to, etc., really helps you create a memorable story. So from there, I went to university. I did 4 years at the Cape Town Creative Academy, which is a more practical focusing creative university. And we did a lot of amazing things. I was saying to someone earlier today that some of my favorite things from that are being able to actually tangibly produce things. So we would be exposed to things like competitions or designing and creating for external companies. So I ended up actually being selected as Wine Label of the Year by the MCC Wine Label Company. And that company basically produces labels for some of the greater brands that we know, your Savannahs, different wineries in Cape Town, etc. So I think with these little like achievements, I was like, okay, like I guess I'm good at this. Let me keep trying, keep going. But post working with Motor Center Toyota and them, which was an amazing team to work with, I realized I actually care more for the small guys. I actually want to work with the small businesses because the creative stuff that I do for them really does impact them. I see it in numbers. I see it in leads that I generate. I see it in profitability for them. That just kind of touched my heart. So that's what I started doing full time during uni and post uni. And that's where I am now.
I think you have a fundamental philosophy as to your approach to marketing. For instance, when we say that, most businesses fail within the first 5 years in Botswana, when we say across the world 90% of businesses fail, within the first 3 years, etc., I get the sense that you believe you have an antidote for that in marketing. And if I'm right in so saying, break it down for us.
Okay, so I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all for all types of companies. I would more so say there is certain steps you need to take to understanding how to market a specific company. I would shout out to say, if people haven't watched your previous podcast, to go back and watch Dr. Mongwa's podcast. Because with, for example, Dr. Mongwa's business, we needed to understand what is aesthetics, specifically speaking
namely
to
the business called
Renewal Aesthetics
Huh?
is, sorry?
Which business in particular?
Dr. Mongwa's company, Renewal Aesthetics, which is underneath the Galafi Group.
Yeah, the Galafi Group, yes.
So medical we understand, but I'm speaking heavily to the aesthetic wing specifically because it's not something that's really understood mo Botswana. We assume, or many women assume, aesthetics to be BBLs or filler and, right? But aesthetics is a bit more than that. It's less about changing who you are and enhancing who you already were, right? So when you go towards marketing a company like that, you need to not only understand their industry in depth, and I say in depth because we actually spend about a month understanding the business, creating strategy before we go out and market, right? We sit and then we speak to clientele because now you understand the business, understand the people who interact with the business, right? So we ask clients, oh, how was your experience? What did you like about this? Why do you choose this practitioner over another person, right? And a lot of that comes into play with, I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Jung's brand archetypes. So
there's a top psychologist.
Yeah, so he developed the 12 brand archetypes, and what they are is basically the way in which your consumers feel when they interact with you. So Nike is like the hero. Nike makes you feel like the hero in your story, right? That's what they do with their slogan, which is just do it, but with Nike, right? You can only be the hero of your story with Nike.
Yes.
So it's interacting with those people because you want to understand where do they sit within their consumers' minds, right? And then once you have that, you have a bit of a recipe going. Now you need to understand, okay, are they a luxury brand? Are they an affordable brand? Are they an accessible brand? etc. Just so your visuals also speak to that, because the way you market to Mogolo or Berakango BITC is very different to how you market to a 20-something-year-old who goes to Kona Couch, right? So cool. And then you need
Or
to
to the
factor
Pond
in
restaurant.
Yes.
Shameless plug, yeah?
Oh yeah, the Pond. Yeah, even Ayoba. Yeah.
Yeah, even Ayoba.
So it's understanding all of that, and then you consider brand. So the visual side of things, right? Who are you marketing to? Cool, you know that now. Who are you marketing? Cool, you know that now. But what do they look like on a visual side of things? So from pictures to video, is Dr. Monga, since we're using her as an example, is she dressed up? Is she looking very luxurious and opulent? Or is she wearing something I can buy go Mr. Price? Who is she trying to relate to? You'll find that in most of the content we do for someone like Dr. Monga is encourage her to look her best because she's appealing to a very high class audience. And people buy from people. That's a great saying. But people buy from people who they relate to. So they can't be a Dr. Monga who is not necessarily looking scruffy, but looking scruffy trying to sell to the BITC client that we spoke about, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't appeal to you. You're like, well, I don't really trust this person, especially in the medical field, to handle such invasive things. Right? Yeah. So not really a recipe, but a few steps.
I want to talk about your company, Hatherleigh. Why did you choose such a name? And of course, you abbreviated it to HACK. Is there some thinking there behind that, some philosophy behind that?
So I believe that words and names have power, right? I believe that every message behind what you're talking about is weighted. So Heather is my name, obviously. And most people actually ask me, is that why you named it Hatherleigh? No, but Hatherleigh actually in naming means wealth, abundance, and creation. And I believe
know that. In what language?
I don't know. It's a British name. But in the British, I guess, British conceptuality or an understanding of naming. But it is an English name.
Yes.
So it's also a type of flower, right? Heather is a type of flower. So I like the concept of the flower in itself being indigenous specifically to the UK, which I consider the wealth capital. I know the US is really what people consider the wealth capital, but what I consider the wealth capital.
Botswana is.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I misspoke. Botswana is the So the flower is indigenous, right? And it's very beautiful when it blooms, and it doesn't bloom often, right? And I believe that when something is that beautiful, it is rare. It is something that is not overly accessible, right? So I like that resonance to my company. In terms of abundance, creation, etc., I just like that as a bit of a manifestation towards the success of the company. And then I abbreviated to hack purely because of the mission that we're on, right? To impact SMEs. We want to hack what has already been happening, the statistical data around SMEs. That's what we want to hack. Yeah.
Okay, time to blow that trumpet. You have a big one there to blow. Accolades, successes, awards. Can you run us through them?
Cool. So I've been fortunate to be at my very young age invited to be on quite a few boards internationally. So I've been invited to sit on the Namibian Innovation Hub board, where we basically bring in Namibian and also sometimes external startups to be accelerated, to be mentored by myself and quite a few other people who sit on the board. And then from that, I ended up networking my way into being invited to sit on the Osmocosm Foundation board as well. So Osmocosm is created by MIT, so the University of Massachusetts in Boston. And they basically are doing a study on AI.
Didn't they come to Botswana last year?
No.
It wasn't them, huh?
It wasn't them.
Okay.
They would like to, though. We're
Okay.
working on that. But basically what they do is they've developed an artificial nose using AI that can smell medical things, can smell a whole lot of things. And they're challenging currently the efficacy around, which is interesting for my fragrance-based client, the efficacy around replicating scent. Because an artificial nose can tell different percentages of different ingredients like lavender, wood, etc. So we're helping them kind of publicize what they're doing. And that's been cool. That's been fun. You know how they say drop the mic? I dropped an earring. That's how cool.
It's okay.
Apart from that, the Wine Label Award, which I mentioned, which was super cool. My first, I think, accolade. And then thereafter, I've recently been selected as the top 20 women in tech by Standard Chartered. And that also awarded me
Wow.
most impactful enterprise and seed funding.
For 2025.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a little bit of my accolades.
Yeah. And of course, you have the seed, the most impactful enterprises in funding winner.
Yeah.
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how have these impacted you, apart from just,
Generally.
basking in the glow? Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I don't really bask and glow. I should.
Yeah.
I think I'm more like, okay, great, validation. Now let's do more of it type of a person. A lot of these accolades for me were very validating, not only in the fact that a creative can make money in this country, but in the fact that creatives do deserve a seat at the operational table. So we are speaking to scientists on how better to get their message out. We are speaking to scientists to say, how can you make whatever research you're doing more digestible to the average person? Because this is information that the average person should know, right? I think also it's been validating in a lot of the shifts we've taken in the business, as in our hiring structure has completely changed, which is why we've kind of been awarded the most impactful enterprise, because we're working more to impact now. And it's just validating to see that, okay, my ideas are not dumb. I think as a young person, and many young people I've networked with feel this way, is that sometimes you think maybe you aren't knowledgeable enough yet. Maybe you haven't learned enough yet. Maybe you haven't built enough yet for your idea to be valid. And for me, it's been very, very validating to say, keep doing what you're doing, because it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of navigating challenges as a young female entrepreneur, you said you are 22.
Yeah.
How has it been? I remember 22 for me is a vital age, because that's when I started practicing law. I won't age myself by telling you how long ago that was.
Yeah.
But it's when I started my career, basically.
Yeah. 20 years ago, nothing big.
Yeah. So just tell us about the experience of being thrust into that
Environment.
limelight, that environment, and dealing with that pressure.
Cool. So for me, I kind of avoid the limelight as much as I end up being thrown into it, like you're saying. But the pressure around being an entrepreneur so young has really been just constant, not self-doubt, but feeling a bit like an imposter. Because like I'm saying, you do still feel like I
Imposter
have
syndrome.
so much to learn. Yes, I still feel like I have so much to learn. I have so much to digest to become better.
I don't know if
what
it's
I'm
any
doing.
consolation, but it hits some of us as well.
Really?
Once in a while.
It is. It makes me feel so much better about myself.
Yeah.
Because you look at all
But
these successful
the thing is,
people.
the key is to know how to counter it when it comes.
True.
So maybe you'll ask me about that.
Yeah, I'll learn one or two from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really like battling with that imposter syndrome and having to remind yourself that you are where you are for a reason. And the rooms that you get invited into are not just because, you know someone, or maybe your CV was good, but because someone sees something specific in you that's going to move the needle for them, right? So it's believing that what you're doing is important. I think another thing that's inspired confidence in me is really consistently trying to get better at my craft. I read a lot. I watch a lot of podcasts like your podcast.
Thank you, thank you.
I pay attention
Should
to a
start with
lot
that
of
one.
Sorry?
You should always start with that one.
Yeah, but I think people lose that along the journey, right? People kind of feel like, okay, I've made it. I know now what the recipe is. And in something like social media or something like branding, it is ever evolving. So you can either evolve with it or get left behind, right? Another thing is there's just social acceptance, I think. As a member of the youth, a lot of the time when I first started doing things, it was a lot of, but I don't know that I can give it to Monana, right? Like, so people questioning your quotation. And for me, it was a quotation backed by awards, backed by, you know, my university and. So I was confident
And
in
the
my
results you've delivered
Exactly.
previously.
And I think it's interesting to see how in South Africa, creative quotation is very normal. Like you can see someone designing a logo for like 10,000 and that's in fact maybe on the lower end of things given by your accolades.
But in Botswana?
in Botswana not so much, hey. I think
Even from corporates.
even from corporates. I think depending on also your years, like I was saying, a lot of the time it's, well, I'm not sure about your experience. And I think maybe that's subject to people not really understanding how branding and even a logo goes about. It's weighted. It's not just an icon. It says something about your business. It tells a story, and there's a lot of strategy that goes behind that, not just the visual look and feel.
Of course.
So I've found that in being young, I've had to grow the patience of teaching before I can work with someone, just because a lot of people don't understand a lot of the creative stuff, especially Mobotswana.
You actually think of it as taking the scales out of people's eyes.
Yeah.
They can't see what's in front of them. So
Yeah.
you have to undo the scales.
Exactly.
Or take them off.
A lot of teaching, a lot of revealing things that they didn't know, showing them your value. I think maybe sometimes as youth members, we get a bit impatient and quick to be like, well, you know, Botswana's not that great anyway. I'm going to go somewhere else.
So for you, what was the hardest moment in navigating the space? In building your business and dealing with
Yeah.
the challenges of being a young woman?
I conquered the pricing thing. Cool. I conquered being invited into things. Cool. The biggest challenge for me was actually hiring, because I'm hiring people older than me, sorry. So the respect levels sometimes are a bit shifted, right? They're a bit not great. But I think that I've found now the best way to go about it. I think we've also gone into working a lot with universities. We've secured partnerships with Stellenbosch Academy and 2 other universities.
I won't
in-
let you off that quickly. What was the hardest moment?
That was the hardest, the hiring. Because
What happened during the hiring? What
Okay,
happened? Bagolo ba ne ba reng?
bagolo ne ba santse serious. And I think I say that respectfully, obviously, because I mean everyone has their reasons, but to me, obviously, it feels a bit like not being taken very seriously.
What happened? For instance.
I had one employee who I let people do things autonomously. I teach you and you just run because I believe in you, right? I want your creativity to also show. And this particular lady went about 3 months without engaging with the client that they were tasked with, engaging, posting, creating any sort of content, but continued to send out invoices. So then I would get the call from the client, and I wasn't in the country at the time, but I'd get a call from the client internationally to say, why do you keep invoicing me? Why do I keep paying if you're not doing anything? And I had the discussion with the lady to say, okay, look, are you okay? Like, is there maybe you've been unwell, maybe that's why you haven't been able to execute, but this has been 3 months. I mean, you're unwell for a few weeks, not 3 months. And her response was, you know what, if you don't want to pay me, just say that. I have
If you
bills to
don't?
pay. If you don't want to pay me a salary,
Yeah.
let me know. I have bills to pay and I need to figure it out. And respectfully, I can understand that, but respectfully, I can't pay you for work not done. And the conversation was always just dragging, like, you know how buale motho nkare wa mo
Because the
bolara.
salary is contractual.
Exactly.
But performance is too.
So there's only so much you can say to a person who doesn't fully want to hear you.
But is that a function of age or disrespect by older people? It's a function of them simply being incompetent and lazy.
I don't know. I don't want to argue that maybe it's potentially incompetence, because I've seen her work. So I know she's great. But I think maybe when I'm not there to micromanage, it's just kind of like, well, I don't care. I don't mind. I can go
After
on
all,
with life.
Kamanana.
After all, utla wana ruira yang, you know? So that's just been my experience. Since then, I've hired people younger than me, as well as some people who are older than me, but a bit more in a better structured manner. And they've excelled. So I think sometimes respect is obviously not just given, it's earned. But when you pay someone respect and they don't pay it back to you, there's only so much you can do to try and force it. You can't force it. I think even as an employer, you don't want to have a tension-filled relationship with your employee. You want to have a good rapport, especially in a creative environment. Yeah.
So, all right, business model for HAC. What did you say it is if you had to define it?
Okay, so our business model, of course, is very service focused. We provide a lot of services to a various amount of clients. But I think the structure in which we've built it in regards to, we have a head of social, we have a head of design. We had an AI lead who we are now replacing. And then the largest wing of our company is actually interns from the universities that we partner with. So that type of structure not only allows us to work faster, but it also allows us to work more affordably, more so that we can be affordable to the SMEs that we work with. Because that's
So you only
an
pay
issue.
them transport charge?
No, we pay our interns.
No, I see.
Yes, we pay them. We profit share with our interns. So our executive wing, which is our heads of departments, they get paid an actual full-time salary, but interns get paid a percentage of the work that they do. So it's also performance-based. If you work more or if you take on more clients based what you can handle, nothing is being put on them, you get paid more for that as well. Yeah, so we give them opportunities to work with real world clients, but also understand how the whole working for pay really, really works. Yeah.
And so what is the structure? You at the top and then
Heads
yes.
and then the interns.
Yeah. How does a marketing company market itself?
That's a tricky question because I used to say some of the greatest marketing agencies actually don't market themselves because we don't have time. For me, the greatest form of marketing that I've actually seen is word of mouth. Mo Botswana especially. We do a lot of great work for various clients and they tell their network, which tells their network, and such we get clientele. Another thing that really propels us is things like this podcast here and there where someone kind of resonates with the mission, resonates with what you want to intend to do. And a lot of the time, actually, we get inquiries specifically because of our fee structure. We're quite affordable, but still really profitable. And we've done that strategically because right now, Botswana, a lot of agencies are quite expensive, especially for a company that's not necessarily new or small, but their profit margins just aren't that large. And they need someone who's going to be an ally in moving the needle for them until they can afford the greater and bigger budgets. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any particular marketing companies that you look up to in terms of heroes and sheroes out there?
There are a lot internationally, and a lot of them I look at them purely because they lead with a personal approach to marketing. So they lead, like I was mentioning earlier, with who am I selling to? What do they feel really? Right? But apart from that, I think in Botswana, definitely dialogue, but biased, obviously, because I used to work with them. But just, I know a lot of the people
Is that
who
where
are
you
heads.
cut your teeth?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
Okay.
That is. I think largely because a lot of those people who are head positions now really helped me grow as a young person. They care a lot about the people that they work with. They care a lot about the people who work for them on a development level, on all levels. I've just found great support from dialogue. I think the work that they put out is also very, very interesting. But I would be interested to see a lot more Botswana-based agencies doing not necessarily guerrilla marketing, but exciting marketing. Marketing that's new, that's fresh, that's unique. Marketing that is tangible as well. I think we don't really get guerrilla marketing in Botswana. We don't get
Define guerrilla marketing.
Sorry?
Define guerrilla marketing.
Okay, so guerrilla marketing is more so where you take something tangible and you blow it up. So you'd find like on Valentine's Day, I think it was Haval, I'm not sure, in South Africa. They had a truck that had a brand new Haval with a big bow on it, in a clear box, massive box, like a present box, and they drove around the city in it. That's guerrilla marketing. The box actually said, "Happy Valentine's Day, my love," and I think it was Tandeka or something, some name.
Yeah.
That was not an actual gift for a lady named Tandeka. It was marketing because it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
They're saying to you, this is what you should be doing. This is what your age mates are doing. They're buying cars for their girlfriends. So that's a form of guerrilla marketing, blowing things up. I know we are moving now into AI and 3D rendering. A lot of people are doing, like, for example, there's Absa over there. They're 3D rendering a tie tied around Absa building. And that would be marketing maybe a luxury suitwear brand, because you probably buy a tie from there, and your brand association using Absa, because people who work there would need a tie, right? So that's the dumbed down version of what guerrilla marketing is. Yeah.
All right. Challenges of cross-market competition, cross-market adaptability, and adjusting between finance, for instance, fashion, and then law or tech. So many fields. What are the challenges associated with that, and how do you maneuver?
So a lot of the challenges, depending on the industry, sometimes is regulation. So for example, understanding that a medical business cannot sell pharmaceutical products on social media is a barrier, right? Because they are selling a product and we want people to buy the product. So figuring out the best ways to kind of speak to it without speaking at it is very, very important. We find ways of placing the product in the piece of content and speaking towards maybe the pain point that the client would feel, to which the product would solve, without directly saying, please go buy this Panado for your headache.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of splitting my brain across industries, I do actually find that to be exciting. I think my brain gets a bit bored if I'm working too long on one specific thing. So you'd find that I'm working with an agricultural brand, but they inspire something for me that I would put towards a fashion brand. Right? So, and I find that sometimes the content that we put out becomes a bit more unique, a bit more interesting and engaging, because it's a different perspective. We've now merged agriculture and fashion. And in the same breath, it also works out for our clients, because they get to partner with our other clients in a great way, right? From lending marketing, lending clientele, and also just finding unique partnerships. Yeah.
I'm asking you this question because, looking at myself, I call myself a visionary serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How do you approach marketing someone like myself who operates across many platforms? When we're talking restaurants, we're talking real estate, we're talking law, we're talking speaking, we're talking podcasting, hospitality, waste management. How would you assist with people like that? Because I don't know whether we are a rare breed, but there are quite a few of us around.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer you by making this a bit more of like an interactive questionnaire, right? This is how we typically onboard clients.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to ask you is, do you want to market everything as one entity, or do you want them to specifically have their own individual personalities?
I would have to know the pros and cons.
Pros and cons. So when you market something as, let's say, all the things that you do under one, let's say, Mogobe brand, it kind of becomes diluted. Now I don't know where to trust you. You do real estate, but you also do legal. You also do this. I don't know what your strength is. You know the saying, jack of all trades but master of none? It resonates on social media as well. I don't know now, can I trust you to sell my house? Because on the side, you're also doing podcasting. On the side, you're also doing restaurants. Do you know what I mean? So it's understanding that. I don't recommend that people go and sell everything under one umbrella.
Well, I think each one is a separate company. Each one has a separate workforce. Each one has its own, for instance, graphic designer.
But I wouldn't know
But
that
at the same, no, I'm just
social
explaining.
media.
And at the same time, there are overlaps. So, based on your advice, I would say, let's market them separately.
Yes, market them separately. Like you're saying, they have their own individual teams, but that doesn't necessarily resonate on social media. I don't know if you've ever seen an account that posts all sorts of things. You kind of get lost, and eventually you unfollow, because it's like, I don't know why I follow you. I don't understand what you do, right? So market them separately. Cool, we've checked that point off. Is there something unique in, let's say, your real estate business that you think stands out to everyone? Undeniably.
Good quality, well-positioned
Equality.
buildings, because we're very big on, location, and then I always say, you want functionality over aesthetics, but aesthetics should not be disregarded.
Neglected. Yeah.
So that's just about it.
So you see, everything you've just said just there is its own nuggets of wisdom to a marketer.
Yeah.
Because I know, okay, you highlight specifically location. All your properties are well located, which is attractive to not only locals but internationals who are looking to buy here.
Yeah.
Right? You've spoken to form follows function, right? Which is important. I know, okay, I'm going to market it for expertise rather than just a real estate company. I'm going to market it for aesthetics because you not only care for it to be functional, you want someone to come home and be inspired by whatever it is that they're staying in. So those are already 3 touch points. We know, okay, we're going to lead with those as your strong points. And then we go to each and every subsidiary of your big brand and say, what do all of them have that is unique, that is important? But cool, we've identified their individual uniqueness. What is the tying factor to all of them? Is it the Mogobe touch? Is it you specifically? If it is you, let's put you in some of the content, right? Because that's why people are buying into the brand. It's for you. Is it price point? Maybe every single subsidiary is very competitive in pricing. Let's tie it in price. I see a lot of businesses that have many subsidiaries. They think it's just enough to tag at the top under the Mogobe Incorporated brand. No, it's not enough. There needs to be something that Mogobe Inc. is known for that ties it to all the other things within the company, right? So do you know what that is?
Look, service and total dedication to service and prioritizing the idea of servant leadership. We may be leading in this area, but we are at your service. That's something that I talk about a lot. And of course, the connecting factor is myself as a founder.
Yeah.
So how you handle that, I leave it to you as an expert.
I think you're neglecting one very important aspect. The nuggets of wisdom.
Yes, of
you
course.
are, because you know why I say that? Apart from it being the slogan of your podcast, the way you speak about the things that you do, for example, the real estate, the way, although not heavily weighted in depth, what you've said was educational. So I can tell you do aim to impart knowledge onto whoever you are interacting with, whether it be a client or someone in the workplace, etc. You intend to educate, you intend to leave them with nuggets. So it would be important to buy a house, buying a house from you, to learn a bit more about the house. What is the history? What is the longevity of the house? What brick was it built out of? Do you know what I mean? While those things seem like very meaningless pieces of information, when it floods, you'll realize how important that information was, right? So you aim to teach not just about the product, but also about the experience as well, because you've spoken to that. So that is the tying factor, I think. I mean, I haven't known you personally very long.
No, but I'm excited by this. Maybe this is an interview for a job.
Well,
it's an engagement. We don't know.
But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's important to really listen to your customer as a marketer. Because sometimes if I ask you now to tell me about your company, some people, not that they get cold feet, but they struggle to articulate what it is that they do well at the level in which a marketer would need to sell it. However, if I listen to you talk about what you do, why you love it, I come to realize why you love it. Some people love, for example, culinary because they're passionate about cooking. They're passionate about the artistry of cooking. Some people are passionate about nutritiously positively impacting the people who eat their food, right? They do the same thing, but their intentions with it are very different. So listening to that and being able to pull that into a marketable thing is important.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Over to you. It's you that we should be talking about, really. Your intention is to build a powerhouse in Africa. I'm talking about a branding powerhouse in Africa. What strategies are you employing? And why a powerhouse?
So a powerhouse, because I think it's important for every startup and SME to receive really, really good marketing, more so that they not only break that 75% failure rate statistic, but to also really grow and scale their businesses. We don't have enough global Botswana businesses. Do you know what I mean? We don't have enough African global businesses, and I want more of that. I need us to sit at the world's table as brands that stand out. I want to see an international person shopping for a Botswana product, like your book, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's that. That's why I want to be a powerhouse. I want to change lives, largely, and change the business lives of a lot of companies in SADC. How I'm doing that, I really enjoy partnering with incubators and accelerators. So you'll see we do that in Boston, we do that in Namibia. It not only gives us some sort of access on the operational table, especially being a board member, but also gives us access to all the startups that walk in there. And, you know, I think in my time, I've realized there's different types of startups. Like there are the startups who are ready to scale. There are the startups who need a bit of hand holding. So being able to interact with people at different levels and learn needs more than anything, learn pain points of business owners, it becomes really, really impactful for me in learning how to better my services that I provide. Yeah.
And what makes African branding unique? Is there a USP there, unique selling proposition?
I think the African story is really the USP, predominantly because it's not told often enough. And I think it is boldly, I'm assuming, one of the most misinterpreted stories in the world. I think when people want to know what is Botswana or where is Botswana, or what happens in Botswana, they already have an idea. It's a desert, or it's a bush, we walk around with lions, etc. And that's not the universal story. It's a great story. Yes, cool, we have amazing livestock, as well as amazing just animals that happen to roam sometimes. But that's not the story. We have intellects here. We have business owners who are really changing industries. And I think that story needs to be told more often. Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
That's where I come in. That's where I come in.
And are you actually going out to those markets yet? And apart from just those collaborations, are you physically getting into the weeds, as it were?
Yes, that is like I said, I'm very passionate about quite literally sitting and talking to people. So when we, for example, partner with universities, I go there, I sit with them, I plan out what our cohorts for our internship structure is going to be with them. And from that, I spend a few days to actually just DM a few business owners locally, ask them, what are your pain points? That's actually how I started the way I've structured the business now. I sat and I went to various Botswana businesses and I said, look, why don't you market? Why don't you invest in good content for your business? You say you're a luxury watchmaker. Why don't we see the craftsmanship of that? Because that's what symbolizes luxury, right? So I do a lot of those types of conversations with people all around the world, not only to one day offer services to them, but also just to learn what is the general consensus around this. I don't think we have a lot of data, written data, on the world of marketing or marketing in Africa specifically. Why people do it, why they don't, the data around performance once they do it, etc. It would be a dream to one day create some sort of written document about that. Yeah.
You are, as you said, 22. Most of your age mates don't seem to even think about business, but you're a successful businesswoman and you're breaking barriers. I dare say you look like $1 million and I suspect you're a millionaire. And what do you say to those of us who keep saying they're too young, who keep saying it's not time yet, those who are reluctant to take the big jump?
I think a lot of times it's parents mainly, because I think that's the first place a child or a teen or a young adult hears wait, or you're too young, right? Or you don't understand this yet. It's the first point. I think parents need to take a moment not to hear, I want to start a business, but hear why I want to start a business. I need parents to pay more attention to the passion that they're putting forward, because I think a lot of youthful people have amazing passions and high skill in those passions, but some know that they can make a business out of it, but some don't. So paying attention to the passion that they have and seeing, is that firstly profitable, of course, but is that something that they've invested and proven to you that they're serious about? Is it something that they've done and shown you they are successful at? Because if it is, why are you holding the person back? I think in this year, last year, we've seen youth doing a lot of amazing things. We have Lesego Chombo as a minister. We have Letsile, who's breaking barriers as a runner, right? Youth are powerful and they are doing something great. They just need the opportunity. They need the one yes. And I think it's important to not give the no at home because you're the first person to knock down the confidence as well. Now they kind of feel like, well, if my mom doesn't believe in me,
Who would believe
who's
in
going to believe in me? You know, my same mom who's supposed to love me through it all and etc. If they don't believe in my vision, who's going to? So I think, yeah, it's important for us to start uplifting kids at home. Give them opportunities to prove to you that they can do the things that they do. If I am a logo developer, let me design your logo. Let me design my auntie's logo. Let me show you that the skill is good. If I'm a marketer, let me do your company's social media or whatever. Let me prove to you that what I'm doing and what I'm passionate about can do good before you discredit me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the sound of that. And then we're in the age of AI and tech generally. How do you deploy it? How do you use it? How does hack position itself and optimize itself during this era?
So I think firstly, a lot of people assume that to be a tech company, you need to quite literally in body, mind and spirit be tech through and through, right? For me in my business, cool, yes, I work in social media, which is a form of technology, but the technology we use is actually in automating processes. That's how we've kind of scaled back 65% of our operational costs is through technology, through AI. We use AI agents deployed in various ways to kind of mediate communication between clientele, mediate selection of specific interns to work with specific clients. We do a bit of a client to intern matching. Yeah, quite a lot of things like that, as well as project management technology. I think a lot of people don't realize the impact of it, especially as SMEs. I think a lot more people need to invest in that. But in the age of AI specifically, because that's also something that a lot of people think will shake up marketing, I've seen a lot of marketers use Gen AI, and that's not bad. But I think AI has a lot of unique capabilities in that you can customize AI to do what you specifically want it to do. I don't think we should be putting stuff in AI and then taking whatever it regurgitates and placing it out. I think you need to have your human touch. It's
a
lacking.
skill. Prompting
It's
is
a skill. Yeah, prompting is definitely a skill. And I think with AI specifically, it's developing in unique ways. Like I think recently OpenAI just announced Rev, which is their...
What's that?
Rev is basically also an image generating platform, but it's the first one now to allow for native imagery development. So
Which
before...
means in normal
so for
English?
example... ChatGPT struggled with developing realistic looking maybe Asians. Maybe, I mean, African Americans, it did well, as in by black people. It does a bit well, although they do look very airbrushed. But Rev basically creates a lot of hyper realistic content. There's also things like Runway, which I think is great because now we can replicate famous people like Mogobe, and we can actually add audio, add movement. So for example, if we're recording me like this, I can talk
Why
like
is
I'm
that
talking.
great? It means that fraudsters will have a field day. Scammers.
No, okay, true. But we're working hard on the regulatory system, right? We're working hard on well, not so much
So
in
it's
Botswana.
good news and bad news.
It's good news and bad news. It's good news, in my opinion, for SMEs because, for example, we're trying to work around getting influencers to replicate themselves through AI, right? And through that, they get a commission every time their visual is used, but it's more affordable for the SME because now they can use a Mogobe to advertise their product at a much more affordable cost. And Mogobe, every time it plays or every time they get a client via that video, also makes money. So it doesn't rob the influencer or the
Does
content
it get
creator.
to a point where the market won't be able to tell a difference? Is it getting to that point?
It is, very scaringly, it is, especially with
But you're
Runway.
excited about it. You don't seem concerned.
I'm excited about it because of the access it will give to my target audience, right? Like I'm saying, we live in a world where people buy from people. So the more people you can get to kind of produce, advocate, and really high value your product, the better. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of content creators, a lot of the avenues of marketing that we have today in Botswana are very expensive.
But in theory, it also means you can create a fictitious individual and use that individual for marketing purposes for good. And you can do the same and market for nefarious purposes.
So in my company, no, we're very strict on the legality side of it all. We get written consent from everyone. And even as I'm using, for example, I'm briefing you to say, hey, Nando's wants to work with you. They want to work with your AI. do you want to participate in the creation of that content, or can we use your AI version of yourself? Beyond that, are you happy with the script? Are you happy with what they're proposing? Like things like that. We really, really are tight on the legality because it can become very dangerous, but I'm excited for it because it also gives you another passive form of income. Why
Yeah.
not, as a creator?
Does the Data Protection Act come into the fore? Does it help? Are you guys maneuvering that act?
So the Data Protection Act, it's not hard to understand, but I think we're working with our teams to try and better understand how we can not be on the line. However, what really works in our favor is consent. What really works in our favor is making sure that all the parties are happy to be part of whatever we're creating. So not so much. We don't really pull too much. The only thing that the Data Protection Act might negatively impact us on is we pull a lot of data on customer sentiment. So scanning the web of what people are saying about your company to help inform our strategic advice as well. So that can become a bit tricky. However, platforms like Facebook, the Meta group entirely, as well as TikTok, they also give us right to that data. So it's a bit of a awkward one because we have validation from the origin platform, but in Botswana it's a bit of a tough one. But that's the only place I really see the Data Protection Act influencing us negatively.
I'll ask you only about the media I'm familiar, which is AI. There seems to be multiple iterations. I think I'm AI 4 or something.
Yeah,
like the one that I've
ChatGPT 4.
ChatGPT 4. I mean,
Yeah.
what's going on? Is it getting to 5, 6? And what are the relative advantages for people in your position to weaponize it for optimum growth?
Weaponize it is a very dangerous word. I won't say weaponize it. I'll say leverage.
Leverage it. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Leverage. So with the different variations of ChatGPT, for me, in my experience, I found them to be a bit more interesting because now they reason. Now they can self-critique. Now they can say, oh, well, this caption doesn't land. Maybe we should consider something else. Or this client's brief doesn't make the most sense. Let's try and build it up a bit more, right?
Sometimes
so on a
they
written
even give you
sense.
options.
Exactly. It gives you comparable options. But what I find is the most useful is having an actual interaction with it. Like I said, don't copy and paste what it gives you. Dissect it and then correct it because it also learns from
And
you
keep
as
going
you
back and forth.
Exactly. It learns from you as you use it. So what I found, which I've learned from our former AI lead, who's amazing, is that the more you teach it what you want it to put out in regards to maybe a certain written format, a certain expertise level. Like I teach my ChatGPT all about Carl Jung.
All about?
Jung and his brand archetypes, all these theories that I've digested over the years because I want it to be concise. I want answers to be within a certain framework and education backed. I train it that.
You don't
right?
just say, look, using Al Yun's methodologies which are available on the internet, come up with 1, 2, 3.
No. Well, you can do that. It's just there's too much room for it to, what is it called? For it to hallucinate. There's too much room for that. And for me, I find I'd rather teach it because you can actually now create a chat and actually just teach it, right? And then know that within that conversation, I'm always going to ask about this specific topic. So the answers will forever be within that framework. Apart from that, apart from ChatGPT alone, there are multiple different AI affiliated or AI powered companies like Runway, which I mentioned. Runway specifically dabbles in filmmaking and in content creation. So you'd find that a lot of people are using it, like I was saying, to make a version of you that talks and acts and does all sorts of things via that platform. I think AI and developers of AI are really listening to what people want for, like I was mentioning, affordable means of content creation. A lot of people are creating access to that via their platforms. ChatGPT, automation. There's also, is it Stack? I think it's Stack. It helps you kind of build things for yourself. AI has come to kind of not only enhance what you do, but create accessibility for you to build what you want easily.
Are we getting to a point that an average company, whether marketing or otherwise, requires such point person as AI leads? I'm asking this because it seems to me that it's become all of a sudden a very, very important component of not just growth but survival.
Survival, growth, profitability, a lot of things. I think it's
Because
very
there's a guy who
important.
wrote a book,
Yeah.
Learn AI or Die or something like that.
Yes,
He came to Botswana.
yes. I did see
Were
that.
you part
They
of
did
that?
come. I didn't come to the event, unfortunately. I wasn't in the
Oh,
country.
okay.
But I did hear about that. I think AI is definitely something that is going to positively impact a lot of businesses. However, I think a lot of companies are quick to jump onto AI without understanding AI, right? Which then lends itself to spending so much money on the development of this thing, and nobody in your team knows how to use it or optimize it for success. So I think as we're excited about AI, let's learn a bit more about how it's impacting our companies. Don't just get AI automation because you've heard from another company that it's great and it does this and that. It might be great for that company because they invested the time in understanding what it's doing and understanding how to make it not only work faster for them, make them more efficient in what they're doing, but maybe also on a profitability scale. I also don't think AI is meant to completely replace the people in our organizations. It's meant to enhance them, upskill them, etc. Really, whatever you want it to do.
But are you going to need an AI lead
I think
to thrive?
to thrive, I think so. I think we're all kind of throttling towards a technology focused era, right? In business. I say that across all industries, agriculture, medical, even marketing. For me, it was important to source an AI lead purely because, like I said, social media and design is an ever evolving industry. So keeping up with not only my company and the fast pacedness of scaling a company, I also needed to keep up with whatever else is happening in the world. So I have an AI now that actually lets me know, it summarizes whatever trend, whatever new update is going on in various platforms, and it tells me all of that. And then I can now deploy it back into a client's account and say, okay, Instagram has changed in this way. This is how we should better approach it. It condenses down a lot of information for me. So if you're not going to use AI to operationally benefit your organization, use it as a mode of learning, as a mode of keeping up with the various updates within your industry, or as a data sentiment pulling tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Data sentiment pulling tool. On that very subject, I don't know whether you have any advice as to how companies can position themselves on their social media platforms to link with AI or to best I don't want to use the word optimize, but certainly best utilize AI for profitability, for maximum exposure, etc.
My advice would be definitely to consult with someone first. I think once you've consulted, for example, with a digital marketing agency to say, look, I cannot afford a full-time team. Is there any way we can incorporate AI into this to automate the entire process of a social media marketing team? They'd be happy to help you. We ourselves are currently developing a product that would allow someone to manage the entire social media through AI at a very fractional subscription price. So consulting with people who do those things is important. I think it's also important to understand who are the players in AI now, Mobotswana, and understanding how they can kind of benefit your organization for the
Do you
growth.
already have those established ones?
I
Or
know
they
a
become-
few. I don't know if I want to name drop them.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna forget me once all the big clients come, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I know. Obviously, we all know. I think Xavier Africa. We know Xavier Africa.
Yeah, he's been here twice.
Yeah, he's been here, and also Monty Khengwenyane. He's doing quite a
He's
lot in the
also
AI
been here,
space as
yes.
well, especially in the educational space. But consulting
There's
with
also
people.
Miss Makabenyana. I can't remember.
Ra?
You know her. Kere khona le Mama Makabenyana. I've forgotten her first name. What's Makabenyana's first name? Yeah.
I'm not familiar with her.
Yeah, but she was the first one to come here talking about AI.
Really?
When everybody was clueless.
Really?
Yeah.
Then maybe she's someone I should know.
Yes.
There's also quite a lot of people who work in regulatory positions who are exploring AI, and their perspective is very interesting, or at least to me, because they understand where regulations are going in Botswana. So developing something is to those frameworks, right? So understanding and knowing who the players are is important because you can have a conversation. I don't think you should go in saying you want to copy and paste someone else's AI strategy.
No.
Go in with your wildest dreams of what you want AI to do for you, or go in with your pain points. Know what they are. Oh, I want to make more money. I feel like I'm struggling to process leads. That's a pain point, right? And the AI expert would then be able to say, this is how you can go about it to better your business. Or I'm struggling with managing my digital presence. I'm struggling with ideating what I should be even posting. They can develop a solution for that, right? So it goes down to really knowing your business and knowing what you want AI to perform for you. And then letting yourself be guided by an expert.
You guys, the youth, have just heralded a new government into power, because statistics show that it was largely because of you guys being active and going to the polls. Now, this government has come into power. Granted, they got 37% as against BDP's 32%, but they trounced BDP because of what they call first past the post system and so on and so forth. Now that you've got the new government in place, what is the wish list? What's happening? How are you interacting with them?
My first and foremost would definitely be to pay a bit more attention to youth. I think I've seen enough members of the youth actually just leaving Botswana to pursue their passions elsewhere, where they are well received, well supported, etc. So definitely paying attention to what are people in this country doing and how are they doing it? How are they impacting Botswana's economic growth, etc. I think it's also important to pay attention to the SMEs, and I think they've already started doing that. I know the BSC recently announced a SME fund, which is exciting. So yeah, just investing a lot more in the people who move the needle. I don't know if people know, but there was a statistic that said, I think, I forgot the percentage, but a very large percentage of the economic growth in Botswana is attributed to informal businesses.
Yeah.
So bomme babarikisang, even they have a say. They should have a say. They may not sit in boardrooms or come to the networking events where these big people are, but we should listen. We should understand, how can we better them? How can we better their economic growth? Because at the end of the day, it's the economic growth of Botswana as well. So I would really hope that they just listen. Above everything, listen and understand. Don't listen to direct and lead, but listen to understand and then make a change. Yeah.
I think they should also consult and bring them, the youth, to the table. I guess the appointment of people like Chombo was an effort to respond to that need. Yes, carry on.
Sorry. I was going to say, I also think approaching people where they are is important. I think when you're taking Meorekisang Umuisa to a boardroom, a lot of the time, and I see this in clients, right? When you take them to an unfamiliar setting, they do become a bit uncomfortable. They do feel a bit more like, not that batsaba go bua yaanong because you've placed them there.
Like a fish out of water.
Yeah. So I think also it humanizes you to go up to a lady where she is and ask her, how is business going? How are things working for you with the new governmental change, right? An honest and authentic answer. You can also sometimes see and understand how people are doing just by observing. So instead of speaking about,
so when you
these
talk
people,
about youth inclusion,
yeah.
what is a specific act that they ought to be doing? Suppose the HE is watching this.
Something that I was very passionate about and has since let go was being part of the National Arts Council, specifically because I'm a creative, right? And I think there are a lot of creatives who are doing something. So creating opportunities, whether workshops, to upskill creatives in understanding how to turn passion into profit, how to build and structure businesses, that stuff is important, especially because a lot of youth really dabble in the creative sector, at least until they find their full-time passion. So creating accessible workshops and accessible means of talking to them, whether that's delegating someone who's going to sit and interact, or creating a workshop and a networking event that allows them to also meet great people. I think a lot of the time, like Forbes is a great initiative. I think Forbes is cool. However, I think Forbes was kind of lacking in that as a young person, I didn't get to speak to the person on the stage. I wasn't given that platform. And it would be nice to be given platforms to learn directly from the people who inspire us.
So is there one policy that you'd really like to see change specifically?
Not necessarily, not one that I can think of off of the top of my head. I would like to be surprised though. I think they surprised me with the SME fund, really. And it really showed that they were listening, not just to me as an individual, but to a mass of people. Yeah.
Akere renaro to go na madi.
Nya, go na le madi. Nya, go na le madi. Re bone hela ka all the other initiatives that they do. Go na le madi.
Okay.
I think just the way in which they choose to distribute it sometimes doesn't really touch everybody. Granted, I think I hope anyway, they'll do better in making people aware. A lot of people find these opportunities after the fact, after they close. So marketing, which is something we've spoken extensively about, marketing these opportunities to the mass market is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about these barometers for happiness about Botswana, where we are told that we are among the unhappiest lot in the world. No one has ever surveyed me, and me, I'm very happy. And I think the people I hang around with are relatively happy. At least they're not morose and sad and unhappy. What do you think of the state of the people as in the youth? Are we unhappy? Are these barometers correct in saying we're the unhappiest lot?
I think when that statistic came out, I personally was very shocked. But maybe I say that from a privileged place. I mean, I've lived in quite a few countries, so I've seen an unhappy nation. I've seen walking into a shop and someone feeling awkward that you've greeted them or not wanting to greet you back. For me, I've only experienced happiness in Botswana, and I've experienced passion, maybe suppressed passion, and maybe that's where anger stems. But generally, I kind of disagree. I think Botswana are quite
feel the
warm
same.
people. Yeah. And maybe that's also me. I am a happy person.
Don't people focus on these terrible statistics, passion killing, and they just blow them out of proportion?
I think we forget that Botswana is small. And I say that to say that the proximity of seeing, let's say, a passion killing compared to a South Africa, which is really massive, it seems like it happens too often. No, we're just small in numbers. So it seems like, oh, my neighbor died of a passion killing. Ow, my auntie also died.
notice everything, yeah.
Because we're a small nation as compared to a larger nation. I think the numbers, because of our scale, make it seem like we're not great.
All right. I want you to say something about mentorship, about representation, in terms of a female-led organization in Africa. I want you to bring it home in terms of making a point relating to how it's been for you, and more importantly, how you want to see it going to the future. I'll tell you why I'm asking you this, because the next question will be projecting 2-3 decades into the future. So deal with those two questions.
So in terms of representation, I strongly believe in representation. I think a lot of the confidence I have to sit in rooms where I might be the only woman is because I've seen it happen, right? I see a lot of new female leaders. I think Namibia just announced, if I'm not wrong, the president is now a female, right? So we're seeing a lot of women step into roles that traditionally were not so much stereotypically seen as a role for a woman. And I think seeing the duality in a woman
America
who can...
missed it by whisker. 2.5 million people.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it hurt a lot of hearts.
Yes.
Especially also a black woman, right?
Yes.
So representation, like I'm saying, it's something that's really important to me. However, I've realized, being in the industry, that sometimes the hero is maybe not the person who sings the loudest in the room. So going into an organization that you're passionate about and actually interacting and meeting people, which I know can be scary, is important, because then you come to learn that Basadi, they are a bit shy. So it's not the everyday woman who wants to be blasted as the president or blasted on magazine spreads, etc. But there are a lot of women doing amazing things. So networking, finding out whether via LinkedIn who's who in the zoo, and realizing actually organizations, majority of them these days are fully women, right? And that in itself is a motivational factor to say, I can do this, right? I also care largely in leadership positions to see women who care to also network and interact with us. I was in a talk today with Thapelo. I think she's the chair of the BSc, no? Or no?
Yes, it's a woman for sure. I think that's her name.
No, I think Neo might be the chair, actually.
Yeah.
But Thapelo spoke largely about how she is literally a conversation away. She's happy to mentor. She's happy to talk about how you can do what she's done. She's happy to knowledge share, right? Which is something that I think we get too shy to ask sometimes, to ask you, what books do you read? How did you get to where you are? It's all about just reaching out. I want more people to reach out and talk to people. I think that's on the leadership role. And mentoring.
Wonderful. All right, time of the show when I get asked a question.
Okay, my question to you,
Oh, no. Before you ask me a question,
Oh,
didn't
you
tell
asked the
us.
second question.
Yes. the
Where I
second
want to
que-
go in 5
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Okay.
No, actually, couple of decades.
Decades?
Yes.
That's not yet in my plans. Okay, decades if I was to dreaming knowing that I'm dreaming with data, like where I am and where I want to go. I think in decades we definitely will not only be doing SADC, but moving a bit more into Europe as well. Europe is a great place for creativity and a well-received place for creativity.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Even there's the Cannes Lions Festival that happens annually. A lot of the time it happens in Europe. A lot of the great marketing that you see comes from Europe. You just don't know. So where I want to go is definitely touch all sorts of places, both SADC and Europe, not only in the way we work with interns, but also the types of clients that we work with. We also want to venture into printing. But I know when one thinks of printing, they think, copia di ID link. No, we want to kind of localize packaging, localize bespoke printing, so that your business card is not just a very cheap, flimsy piece of paper. It might be a branded piece of metal, because there are cool people who are innovating branding in that way, even in Botswana, right? So participating more on a full-scale level of branding and marketing, both on the output, both on the tangible creation, and also on design and strategy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's going to be an international company in every
Yes.
sense of the word.
Emphasis, yes, on it, but also highly impactful. I think that's what my heart really cares about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Your question, madam?
So my question to you, which I hope nobody has asked this already, what was your unexpected but biggest failure that you learned the most from? A lesson that you would have also wanted someone to have told you before you ventured into whatever the failure was.
Well, you know the idea of stepping on a rake and then it comes and hammer you?
Yes.
It had to do with a deal I had with a big listed entity, which I thought was hallelujah, this is Nirvana, and then it backfired. Which you're going to read about in the book. You're buying my book, right? And where I mentioned that I was totally blindsided because what was an obvious thing in black and white was interpreted by them differently, and it cost us a fortune because that was our first shopping mall. And you know, building your first shopping mall, you commit all your funds, and we ended up facing near bankruptcy because they went into litigation, and that litigation nearly broke our backs. It was only with the intervention of people like the late Damane, with the intervention of the Almighty, and I talk about it in the book, that whole thing turned around. Why did it become one of the biggest lessons? That shopping mall is one of our best performers in the group, and when we now came here with the CBD and went on to do other projects of a comparable size, our eyes were wide open, and it turned out to be a blessing. Not only that, our appearing in newspapers, papers over the dispute around that was also a promotion of the brand in a sense. So you know how it is that we're told by Napoleon Hill, that inside every adversity is a promise of an equivalent or greater blessing. I saw that with my own eyes.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to read about that.
Yes.
I think it's such an underdog story as well, because you were in, like you're saying, near bankruptcy, but it completely turned around and ended up being one of your most profitable.
Still is.
Imagine.
It's one of the profit centers for the entire business.
I like that you mentioned faith as well, because sometimes some things in business you just have to lead with faith.
Absolutely.
Right? Delusionally believe.
I tell in the story in the book that we literally had 7 pastors and elders praying the whole day,
just to turn it around,
for everything to turn around. It was intercessionary prayer, and it manifested that way.
Did you believe that you would turn
I
it
did.
around?
I was among the 7. We prayed.
Okay.
And if without faith nothing happens. So
That's
we believe
true.
that this is the last time we were complaining about this, and indeed within a couple of weeks everything turned around. the same judge who was totally hostile to us previously
Wow.
was willing to listen and
Look at God, right?
was even expediting the case. Yeah. All
I
right.
think, yeah.
Yeah.
No sword formed against you shall prosper. That's testament to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Amen.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Have a look at that camera, madam. Talk to that person who's anxiously looking forward to something encouraging, motivational, inspiring as we wrap up our discussion.
So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep it short because I think, irrespective of it being short, it's very weighted. I think it's important to do things now. Do things scared, do things unprepared, do things nervous. I did this podcast nervous and unprepared and scared, but I did it because
And you
it's
aced it.
important. Oh, stop it. It's important to do things scared. I think a lot of us sit on ideas, on passions, on aspirations that we really, really want to throttle ourselves into, but we're scared. We're scared to DM that business owner who has a bit of nuggets that would change my life. DM them. We're scared to register the company because we're afraid that it might not be profitable. He was afraid that it might not work. And it worked because he believed in himself. So believe in yourself and just do it. If it fails, you learn, you move on, you iterate, you do better. But you should just do it.
This is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
We need all your contacts, social media, physical, everywhere. People should get hold of your
Okay,
company.
so I'm really mainly on LinkedIn on my personal self. I'm open to really chatting, talking, teaching. I'm not the most knowledgeable person, I don't think. I've got a lot to learn. But you can follow me and message me on LinkedIn. I'm always open to chat. In regards to my business, you can search us. Hatherleigh.co is the URL, really. And then we are on Instagram, Facebook, and those. Oh, we're also on Business Weekly, actually.
What's
We actually submit articles on Business Weekly monthly to drop nuggets of wisdom for SMEs who kind of want to know and understand what's happening in the marketing world and how to leverage marketing for their businesses. So, yeah, you can also reach us or learn from us through Business Weekly.
Wonderful. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. You did a brilliant job.
I tried.
Yeah. Thank you, dear viewer. I appreciate your taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch this. I assume that you picked the nuggets, massive nuggets. In Setswana we say, "Bothale jwa phala bo jwa phalaneng." And I think the Bible says somewhere in the book of Isaiah that you can take it from the mouth of babes. So we just got it from the mouth of babes. It's in the Bible, by the way.
Yes.
So you can learn a lot from people a lot younger than you. And I've just learned a ton. Thank you so much, Ma, for coming on. Can I just remind you to strike that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, give us a like, and of course go across to Exclusive Books. Grab my book or come here and get it. It will impact you. It will make a difference. I'm about to sign hers once she's paid me, of course.
Of
All
course,
right.
we're in the business of money.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.